Here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar in a series of webinars covering Comeet best practices in reporting. I'm happy to see that so many people have joined us, and there are so many familiar names here. My name is Orly, and I'm here with Beth.
Hey, everyone.
Both of us are from the customer success team. A big part of our role is to help you use Comeet's many features correctly. In the upcoming years, we'll be having a series of webinars focusing on the critical parts of Comeet that directly impact your reports and your reporting accuracy. Now, this webinar will be about half an hour long, and we're going to leave time at the end for you to ask your questions. Please feel free, as of right now, to start sending your questions in the chat, and we'll try to cover as much as possible at the end. If there is anyone here that can't stay until the end or wants to share the content of this webinar with your colleagues, we'll be sending you a recording of the webinar in the upcoming day. Second. Now, before I pass you over to Beth, who will be presenting today's agenda, I want to talk about the reason that we decided to start these webinars at this time. In the last year, most of our resources and development were centered around reporting. What has made Comeet so successful and unique as an ATS has always been our flexibility, which is very important in a field as dynamic as recruiting, of course. The downside to all of this flexibility was the effects on the reports, as all of the changes sometimes made it difficult to draw meaningful conclusions from the reports. For this reason, we made some major changes in Comeet. First of all, we added features and improvements to better structure your processes. We integrated with a new BI tool to create a tool called Insights. And we created a team that is dedicated to reports, composed of BI experts from the field of HR who can provide customized reports as part of our professional services. For all of these changes that we made to be effective, you will likely need to make some changes on your end as well. There are people in attendance here who have been using Comeet for 3 years and more and know how Comeet keeps adding improvements. And the tools you will learn in today's meeting and the changes you will make in Comeet and in your processes will ensure that the reports clearly and accurately reflect your work. Now, I'm going to pass you along to Beth to talk about today's agenda.
Thanks, Orly. Hello again, everyone. Very excited to speak with you today. I am going to review the agenda with you here. So we are going to be covering new features. So we're really excited about that. Definitely some functionality that you should know if you haven't already seen some of the stuff that we are showing you today. We're going to discuss the difference between a position and an opening and why it's really important for you to manage your openings correctly. We know that the last few months have been really crazy, and a lot of you all have had to put recruiting on hold. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about position status and how it affects openings within Comeet. After that, we will cover how working correctly with openings will affect your data and your central KPIs, so apply to hire and time to hire. And then to conclude, we will go over how the hiring team manages a specific position, how you're going to set that up, and how you can manage that within not only your workflow, but at the position level, but also within the candidate level. Alrighty, and Orly, can you switch to the next few slides here? It doesn't look like they're moving over for me.
Sure thing.
And then if you could just let me know once we're on the new feature slide.
Here we go.
Okay, cool.
Hold on. Here. Sorry about that. We're on the new feature slide.
Okay, all right. So in the last few years, in the past year, you all might have received like chats from us or emails. I understand that those are often overlooked, but those did include a slew of new features that we have released. So we are going to be covering those in our future webinars. We'll typically be covering about 2 new features, with every webinar that we have, and we hope that you attend, obviously. And we'll also be providing additional information about these features. Wolfgang, I see that you couldn't see. Can you guys see this now? All right, great. Thank you for the heads up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so all of our new features, we will be sending you an email about these new features following the webinar. We do want to keep you updated about these new features. So something that you will notice within your Comeet is at the top of the page, just to the left of kind of your command center where you have your company name as well as your photo image within Comeet, you'll see this little question mark. So when you click on that question mark, it'll give you a drop down in which you can click on what's new in Comeet. So if at any point, again, you somehow overlook some of the emails we sent and the chats that we sent making announcements about these new features, you can always access that data or that information within your own Comeet, which is really exciting. Alrighty, so actually I do want to show you one of our new features here. And that is going to be access to all versions of candidates' resumes. So in the past, we know now that there was an issue with candidates that maybe have applied multiple times and having multiple resumes within the candidate card. Previously, that wasn't a functionality that was available to you all. However, we did recently add that. So when you're looking at a candidate card at the bottom of the page, I'm sure you've seen the resume tab a million times. But now when you click on where it says resume added on, in this example, April 8th, 2009, you will be able to see multiple resumes and you'll be able to upload additional resumes as well. Once you have multiple resumes, you can decide which one's going to be the primary resume just by clicking on that specific resume and then clicking Make Primary. So this is going to give you really great insight into obviously what candidates were doing in the past, what their resumes look like in the past, and how they've updated that information in the present and then also in the future as it moves forward. Alrighty, I will pass this over to Orly to review some advanced search with you guys, which is very exciting.
Very exciting. Thank you, Beth. So I'm actually going to go ahead and log into this demo account in order to show you the advanced search. It's all demo data. So first of all, to access the advanced search, I'm going to click on the advanced button here near the search bar up at the top of my screen. Now, this is one of the features about Comeet I would say is underutilized. Especially if you've been using Comeet for a long time, you have a huge database of candidates inside of your Comeet now that you can definitely use when you're reopening a position to try to reawaken them or for various other purposes. Now, this is but in the past year, we've actually improved our parsing capabilities, and we added these three things at the bottom under candidate background: experience, education, and competence. What these look like. So we have all these new filters that you can use about the candidate's experience, his education. We'll take education level, for example. Our parsing is smarter now, so we can actually understand the data inside of the resume and know which tags to attach. So let's say a candidate who has a bachelor's degree. All I have to do is to click here on education level. On the left side of the screen, I'll have the particular filters I could use. If I want to be really specific, I won't because this is demo data and there isn't a lot of it. I can even add the graduation year for the candidate. All I have to do is click on search here. And there aren't a ton of them. Again, this is a demo account, but here are all the candidates I have that have a bachelor's degree listed on their resume. So I will be even more specific. I'm going to click to add a filter, and it can actually combine filters to meet my needs. And I'm going to move this. I'm going to try competence, and I'm going to try choosing a skill. So let's say I want somebody who also knows C++. Add the numbers of years of experience that the candidate has, a minimum or a maximum, to narrow my results down even more. An important thing to note is we see this 0 to 10 next to how many times the word C++ appear in the resumes of the candidates, not how many candidates there are. I'm going to click on search. And I narrow down the field. So let's say I have a position open right now, the C++ degree. I'm going to reach out to these candidates and see if they're interested in a position, if they're looking for work. I can select multiple candidates. And the great thing is, I can click the email button right side of the screen, or a template I can kind of pull up in order to use it, or I can compose something from scratch and send an email to all of these candidates. Everyone will be in BCC. They won't be able to see each other. If you go ahead and show the candidates, see if everybody's interested. Another thing I do is, let's say if I want to tag all of these candidates together, because I don't have time for it now, but I want to be able to find them easily. I can click on the tag and I can tag all of these candidates together. There's a lot more to this feature. We don't have time to go over it in depth now, but we will be sending over an email with a summary, with a recording of this, and we'll send over some more information about the advanced search as well, so that you can look over it at your free time. I'm going to pass things back over to Beth.
Thanks, Arlie. I'd like to reiterate how amazing advanced search is. It's my absolute favorite feature, which I know sounds kind of dorky, but there are so many filters that you can play with to create really great searches of your database, which obviously will save you time when it comes to sourcing, because you already have these amazing candidates in your system, and it just takes a quick search to find them. But moving on from advanced search, I'm going to go ahead and talk about position openings for a few minutes here. So if you haven't already started to use openings within your account, I implore you to start and get comfortable with them now. And the reason I say that is because all of the central KPIs, so your apply to hire, time to hire, et cetera, are calculated using openings. So it's really important to manage them correctly. So you'll find the openings tab within the position card here where I'm circling my mouse. So I hope you can see that. Every time you open a new position, an opening is automatically going to be created with that position as well. One thing that's really great about these openings is, if you're hiring several people for the same position, you might want to create several openings to be attached to that position. That way, when you are starting to make your hires or you are projecting, so let's say you want to make future hires, you can edit all of the opening times, the hire times, the apply times directly within those specific openings. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and how you can make those edits, and also how you can create a new opening when you're actually in here and making all those really great hires. So first we'll go ahead and click on this top opening here, Dan's team. So I'm just going to go ahead and click here. Now, if you want to make any edits to an opening, you'll want to go ahead and click Edit on the top right here. Once you do, you will have the ability to, let's say, rename an opening. So maybe originally you were hiring for Dan's team, but then you're like, actually, this opening really needs to be assigned to Beth. You can just go ahead and rename that here. And then when you're making your hire, you're going to know where to apply that hired candidate to. You can also change the open date. So let's say that you started recruiting for a specific position or an opening 2 weeks ago, but you forgot to add it into Comeet, which is totally fine, it happens. You can always go into the opening once you create it and change the date retroactively here. That way, your apply to hire or your time to hire is going to be reflected properly within your reports, which obviously is very important. We also have the reason you're creating these openings here. So I can go ahead and click on this drop down and I can say, hey, this is a totally new opening. We need to add an additional person, mark it as such. If you're replacing someone, maybe you let someone go or you're planning on letting someone go and you need to replace them, you can mark it as replacement. Again, just really great for your KPIs down the road when you're looking to see what took place with this specific hire. You can select an expected hire date. This is going to be a way to kind of keep you on track with how you're doing throughout the hiring process. You can always move this forward. So let's say it's automatically set to 60 days or so when you are opening up this or creating this opening. You can set it out further if you think, that's going to be necessary. Then you always want to make sure you click save. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go up to add an opening. So if you need to add an additional opening, you would go over to the right here and click add opening. You can name the opening again here. So let's say my team needs an additional person because we kick butt and we just need to increase the number of people on my team. So again, you would open here. Now you'll notice at the top that it does say approve directly to the right of details. So this is a new feature as well that's very cool. We will be covering that on future webinars. We will not be covering that today, but it is available to our Ultimate and Enterprise clients, and it's just a really great functionality. Then again, you can edit all of this information to reflect the proper time. And then you just go ahead and click Create Opening. And now this is going to be another opening in which you can make a hire for. So that's very exciting. Now, I did mention earlier, given the world's status right now, it's a little hard, or it has been, for recruiting, which means you might have had to put positions on hold at some point or another. So I do just want to let you know that when you put your position status on hold over here in the upper right-hand corner where it says open and select on hold, that will close the openings that you have created. So when you have decided to reopen that position to start recruiting again, you'll want to add an additional opening. And when you do so, again, you can change those dates to reflect, maybe when you decided to start recruiting again. So the openings that you have created again will be closed when you put a position on hold. And they'll be closed as unfilled, meaning that it was an opening that was created and then it was closed unfilled. You also have the option to delete openings, and I'll show you that here, though we definitely don't encourage deleting data just because of history's sake. You want to make sure you have all that fun information, but you can delete it within the opening, and then you can also manually close this opening as unfilled as well. Alrighty, so that is everything I wanted to cover with openings. Orly, I will let you continue with reports.
Yes, thank you. So our next subject is reports. I'm not really going to get into this in detail. We're going to have future webinars that really focus on the in-app reports and the insights reports. But I really want to show you today a little bit about the way your KPIs from the openings are reflected in the reports. Narrowing also on the importance of managing the openings correctly. First of all, when you open these reports, I was just in here, so this isn't the case. By default, we'll always have a position status filter open. So when you go into this default report, if you want to see what happened to position goes on hold, I recommend removing that filter so you can see everything. Because this is a demo account, I don't have a ton of data. So I'm going to go ahead and change the time period to all times. And we'll talk a little bit about what we see on our screen. First of all, I can see that there are 94 openings that I've worked on since I started working with Comeet. Of those 94 openings, there are 34 that are currently open. 31 were closed unfilled. This means that for some reason I have closed them without filling them. And I have 29 hires. I also have information here about my KPIs. My time to hire is 50 days. The time to hire is a measure of how much work I put into the recruiting for the position. It's from when I opened the opening to when I hired the candidate. My apply to hire is 48 days. Apply to hire is a measure of candidate's experience. It's from when he submitted his application to when he was hired. And lastly, we have the time to onboard. So the time to onboard is from when I opened the opening to when the candidate started his first day at work. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen that there are 33 positions, although there were 94 openings. That's because a position can have multiple openings. You may also have a position open that doesn't have any openings in it. So again, it's really important to make that differentiation between the positions and the openings when you think about the reports. We live in a really data-driven world these days. And the data in your reports in Comeet will only be as good as the data you manage at Comeet. If you don't have this correct, it won't be in the reports yet. There's something else I want to show you that we've added to help you accurately reflect your KPIs. And that's our new hire form. I'm going to find a candidate. It's a waiting decision. Waiting decision means that the candidate has been through all of the stages of the workflow. really important to make sure that you complete the entire workflow before you hire a candidate. This is to make sure you document everything. Again, this will affect your reports. If I get really excited about the candidate and the reference check and I hire him here before completing the offer, we won't be able to show you an offer acceptance rates because there won't be an offer. So it's really important to do the whole workflow. Now, go ahead and so the first thing we see here is that I need to select opening. I start position. I have one that was open on April 29th, one that was open on April 30th, and one on June 17th. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the oldest opening. If I choose the opening that was open most recently, then I won't be accurately reflecting the amount of time I worked in order to fill the openings. So it's really important to choose the correct opening here. I have the opening here to make sure that I'm really using the right one. I also have a cheat sheet here. I have the time to hire on the right corner. So I can make sure that that looks good to me and makes sense to me before I complete the hire. Another thing that we show here is the application date. So a lot of the time we'll have candidates apply a few times for positions at your company, maybe over years. Comeet won't know automatically to choose the application date. The candidate might apply several times even for the same position. So it's really important here in this dropdown to choose the correct application date. Again, I'll be able to see on the side to make sure that the number makes sense to me. Lastly, this is your last chance to make sure that the source is correct before you complete the hire so that the hire will be attributed to the correct source. So if I don't change it, I can click on this here and change my source. I have the hire date. By default will be the day that I complete the form. But let's say, I don't know, I did it a couple days ago, but I didn't have time to go into Comeet to document it. Obviously, I hope that not something that happens too often, but I'm sure it happens sometimes. So you can definitely go in and edit this date to reflect when the real hire happened. And lastly, we have the start date. Again, this is really important, the time to onboard. So the time to onboard here is 57 days. I'm going to go ahead and hire the lucky candidate. And that's it about the hire form. So we've really taken a lot of care to show you the information different places in Comeet, again, to help you make sure that your data is reflected correctly. And now I'm going to take it back to Beth, who will talk some about the workflow of the position.
Great, thanks, Orly. Like Orly just mentioned, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about managing your workflows, as well as properly setting up your position. So let's take a look here at the project manager workflow. So in our next webinar, we will actually be discussing a new feature that is being rolled out that it's going to enable you to manage a closed list of step names. What I mean by that is you will be able to choose from a drop-down of names to choose from when naming these different steps. And again, kind of taking this or relating this back to reporting, it's going to be really important that the steps are properly named. So you don't have, let's say, 17 different CV screen recruiter steps named 17 different ways. Once you have the ability to close kind of the way that people name these steps when they're creating positions and workflows, it's going to clean up everything for you, which I think is going to be, well, I don't think, I will say I know it's going to be extremely valuable for you all when it comes again to those reporting statistics. One thing I'd like to say is, oftentimes we see that people are going into specific candidate workflows. So let's go ahead and open up Samantha Jensen here. And they're unlocking the workflows to customize it for that specific candidate. If you've never unlocked a workflow before, you will find the lock in the upper right-hand corner to the right of the last step in the workflow. And again, like I said, it gives you the ability to customize the workflow. And that definitely happens sometimes when you will need to take advantage of that functionality. But if you find yourself often, customizing workflows for candidates to differ from the position workflow, it might be a good time to take a look at the workflow you currently have set up and make some changes. So for example, if your first step is typically a CV screen for the recruiter, you would want to name it as such, as we can see here. But let's say sometimes the CV screen is going to be done by the manager and you want that specific candidate, to be reflected of that. So you unlock their workflow and you make the change. What we would suggest in a situation like that is maybe just renaming this step just CV screen. So that way you don't have to constantly, make those tweaks and changes at the candidate level. You can make it at the position level, which will affect all candidates that have locked workflows. Again, just making your life a little bit easier there. Like I said, we will be covering more in our next webinar about, creating a set list of names for these different steps, which again, I think will save you a lot of time and make your reporting great down the road. But as of right now, maybe again, having like that general CV screen name for a step would be your best bet here. Now, moving on to this description, I think you all know how important it is to properly set up your position description. Obviously, a lot of this information is being sent, or it's going to be visible to your candidates and to other people just checking out your jobs, whether they're an active candidate or a passive candidate. So you really want to make sure that you have your location properly set up here. You also want to make sure like your department is properly set up here. Not only is this information, specifically like location and job description and job requirements, really great for your candidates to see, but it's also going to affect your reporting or have a good effect on your reporting if you have it properly set up. Typically, incomplete details are going to affect your ability to filter reports properly. It's going to make it look like information is missing when in reality it's not. You probably know the department, you know the location, etc. Another just really important thing when it comes to setting up your position and the description is the location. I know I already said that, but when you really want to extend your reach when you're trying to pull candidates in, and also to make sure that job boards are properly posting your position, the location is really going to be key there. So just make sure it's properly set up, make sure you have that location added there as well, and the additional fields. In our next webinar, again, we will talk about how you can customize these fields for your company. So for example, you can add sub-departments or business units. But for now, I would say, work on the fields that have already been added. And just make sure those are all properly set up. All right, Orly, I will pass it back to you.
Excellent, thank you. The next thing we want to talk about is the position hiring team. I'm going to click here to get through to the hiring team of the position. This is one of those things that we see customers miss a lot, and it's really important in order to correctly document your positions in our reports, in-app, and also in Insights. You'll be able to filter by the hiring manager and by the lead recruiter. So it's really important to make sure that this is correct. So here I can see, for example, that my lead recruiter is Mary. I'm a recruiter, I'm Natalie. And my hiring manager is Amy. Always make sure you go to the position, which has been open a long time, maybe you have instances in your team, and that everything is correct here. The correct management of the permissions is important not only for your reporting, but also to make sure everyone has the correct access to the position. If you have questions about this, the whole roles thing in Comeet is a little bit complicated and there's a lot of room for customization. So if you have questions, you can click here on About Position Roles. It will open our help page, and there's really great information there about what the roles mean and a great table showing what you can do. And if you have any questions about the permissions or adding someone to a position, you're not sure how to add them, you can always reach out to us and we're happy to help you. So before we go on to the question and answer portion of things, I just want to sum up everything we talked about today. First, we talked about the difference between positioning and positioning. We did the openings tab. This is something that's really important for you to be kind of visiting in the day-to-day, making sure that you're managing correctly. Again, your data will be correct. You can use this to up information, like we said. If anything is incorrect, you can go ahead and edit. If you've hired a candidate, you can even go in and click here and make changes really easily. If you see something doesn't look right to you, all you have to do is go back to this opening those updates. We talked about the workflow, which is something we'll discuss in more depth next week. The importance of the description tab of the position and the position hiring team. We talked about the hire screen and how to make sure the KPIs are correct there before completing the hire. And all of these will help ensure that your reporting is as clean and accurate as possible. Lastly, we talked about this what's new in Comeet screen, which is a great place where you can always stay updated about our any features that are releasing, any improvements. We do that lots, we're constantly improving Comeet, so it's really great to stay updated here. We also reach out to you via messages to help you stay updated, but this is a great place for you to look. You can get to our help center from you, which has a lot of articles with instructional videos, how to do things inside of Comeet. And last, definitely not least, we have our chat. You can always click on this little chat button here to get support from us. We're really happy to hear from you, to get your feedback, to answer your questions. Now, let's answer some of the questions in the chat. 1 second. I'll go ahead and start my video. The first question that we have here is, what's the best practice for closing and reopening positions? Should I close and reopen the position or leave it open and continue adding new openings? This is a really good question. It's something that's also been coming up a lot during this time of COVID. So if it's the same pool of candidates, there's no reason for you to close a position once you filled an opening. You should keep adding openings. So if you're adding openings as you go and you have a lot of openings for a position, you're always adding new ones, there's no reason to close a position, just keep it open because you're gonna be working with the same pool of candidates. Beth already covered what happens if you put the position on hold. This unfortunately is something that people are doing a lot these days. So if you're putting a position on hold and hopefully it's very temporary, the opening there will be closed. You'll be able to add a new opening when you reopen the position. There's no reason to close the position. You can go ahead and leave it on hold. If it's something that's going to be on hold for a really, really long time, it's not because of COVID, it's just because, I don't know, you're pausing your hiring for other reasons, and it's not going to be the staple of candidates, I would go ahead and close a position and reopen it down the line when it becomes relevant again. That's how you go on to the next question here.
Awesome. So it does look like we have a question about the opening functionality. So the question is, if I've never used the opening function, how should I proceed from this point? Should I close the current position and start over and open a new position? So great question, and I'm glad you're asking it. It means that we've piqued your curiosity about the openings functionality. So no, I do not recommend closing the position and starting over. What I would recommend though is since you're going to already have an opening attached to that position, if you already haven't made a hire for it or something along those lines, you can either just edit that opening. Let's say if you want to, start utilizing it right now as a data point for apply to hire or time to hire, things along those lines. If you are making multiple hires throughout time, meaning, today you do want to make a hire for opening 1, and then 3 months from now, someone asks you to make a hire for the same exact team, the same exact position, just right then and there, I'd open up or I'd create another opening within that same position. So you never really have to close the position fully if you're utilizing the openings functionality. So you can always add as many openings as you would like to a position. All of the timing, again, all of your KPIs will be related to that opening. So I hope that answers your question. And if you do have questions about it when you're in there, definitely let us know. We can walk you through the process. It looks like we have one other question here. Where can I see all of the openings we filled and make sure our apply to hire and time to hire are recorded correctly? Another great question. So this is going to be related to reports a bit more here. So if you have never looked at your reports, you can find them on the upper right-hand corner of your screen in what I like to call our command center here. So if you click on reports, on the left-hand side under positions, you're going to see a tab called hires. So your hires here are going to be tracking all of your data when it comes to your openings. So if I'm going to filter my hires here just from June to, let's say, the last quarter. Alrighty, so we've added a few additional people here. So within this actual report, you're going to be able to see the candidate name, the position in which they were interviewing, their opening, their source, when the opening was created, the expected hire date. So when you kind of set up that timeline for yourself in which you want to make a hire, the actual hire date, and then their start date. Now, what's really interesting in this report, and it's a really great example, is that both Ben Cohen and John Smith here were interviewing for the same position, but they were hired for two different openings. So the first one was Mikhail's team, and the second one was Bob's team. Different sources, different opening dates, different expected hire dates, different hire dates, etc. So you really have the ability to track positions and openings right down to the different sources, the different times, etc. Through this report. So I think that'll be really helpful for you guys.
I see we received another question as well. In different parts of the world, certain countries promote jobs for nationals of that country. Will there ever be the ability to search on nationality type from the CV in the advanced search? I appreciate there might be against certain US laws, but just asking. I don't know of any current plans to add this type of search. I'll show what does exist in our advanced search though. And I'll definitely get in touch with my product team about this. I know this is something that's come up in the past. So I'll definitely look into it and I can get in touch with you. In our advanced search, we do have a location filter that's attached to the position. So theoretically, if somebody is applying for a position in Saudi Arabia, there's a good chance he's located there. You could use the position location filter. In the personal info, this country filter, it doesn't parse the resume. This means that if you already have the country of the candidate in his candidate card, then we will be able to find it using the advanced search. But as far as things that you can search for in the resume, never tried it. Maybe resume has the words. We're gonna try something live.
The excitement.
Definitely, but what should I search for?
I don't know.
I don't know. Right, it works. You could use the resume has the word search. It won't specifically search the candidate's location. Maybe he worked somewhere else located in the US, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So it's definitely an option for you as well. It's a great question. Thank you. Let's see if we got anything else here. Did you say you want to grab one more, Beth?
Let's see. Another question about openings. So what happens if I have two openings in a position and I put it on hold? Will both of them still be there? Great question. We kind of touched upon this earlier, but just to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page and to clarify, anytime you put a position on hold, the openings will be closed. So both of those openings will be closed. Let's say that you made a hire already though. So one of your openings is closed, filled as a hire. Nothing will change with that. All of those statistics and all of that data will stay the same. If you have an open opening and then you put the position on hold, that opening will go, be marked as closed, unfilled.
I think we have time for one more, and then unfortunately we'll have to stop. I'm loving all the engagement though. I have a position which had two openings, one of which remained unfilled. I closed the position as unfilled. However, it somehow does not allow me to edit the date in which it was closed. Is there a way to edit the closing dates? If I understood this correctly, we're talking about the closing date of the opening. This is a great question. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there doesn't appear to be a way to edit the close date of the position. So definitely something we could look into and pass on to the product team as a feature request, though, to allow in the future. It's another great question. Thank you.
Awesome. So well, number one, that was like the most questions I've ever received from a webinar. So you guys rock. Thank you so much. It makes everything so much more engaging and exciting when you're kind of having like an actual conversation with people. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I really hope this was helpful. Again, if you have any questions, let us know.
Definitely. Thank you so much to all of you. Have a great day, and we're here with any questions. If you have any feedback for us, and we'll be sending over a recording of this again, so that you'll be able to review it if you want to, and send it along to your friends.
Yep.
Thanks. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, y'all.